Hello, it's Father Rich coming to you from the second floor sitting room again of my suite up in the rectory at Our Lady of Peace, here for our next essay on how the church has changed the world. And I'm here in the corner. I kind of consider it my academic alma mater corner here with the Jim Sable drawing of the doors of Cathedral Prep, where I went to high school, and then the Golden Dome and the Touchdown Jesus, kind of the two iconic figures from the University of Notre Dame. And next to that is kind of a reinforcement, a picture of Our Lady of Good Help that reminds us that's in French. And I got that when we went to our pilgrimage in Canada with an OLP group a couple of years ago. I always kind of joke with the kids, but even here at Our Lady of Peace, that to remember that Notre Dame means Our Lady. And so the university is named after our Blessed Mother. And I've been trying to push to have OLP renamed to Notre Dame of Peace, but that hasn't gotten very far yet. But this kind of reinforced to me, brought together today's essay, which is called The Mother of Universities. And the university they're focusing on is the University of Paris. It's, I think, kind of accepted to be the second oldest university historically, behind Bologna, but really the heart of the Catholic and really the cultural world there in Paris. Established back in the 12th century, Bologna was 11th century, and then continued all the way to 1970 when it was broken down into like 9 different universities, I think. So it kind of lost its identity as a whole. And the only break being the French Revolution in the 1793 time frame. But so one of the oldest existing universities there in France, and the essay really focuses on 2 individuals, but really highlighting the phenomenal amount of people, whether it be leaders, government leaders, saints, a few popes, that over the years were alumni at the University of Paris. But it focuses on the early years, and you see some of these great minds and people that were there in those early decades. It focuses on a relationship between a young man from Norway that was sent to Paris, and then a man from England sent to Paris, and that reinforces that there were people from all over Europe that would go to these universities, and certainly the University of Paris. And they met and created a friendship, and they eventually would both go back to their corresponding countries, become bishops, and kind of butt heads with the local kings, because the kings would name them to be the bishops, which wasn't an authorized process for the church, but that there was always this tension between church and state. And they would surprise everybody, these 2 individuals, by not being cooperative, so to speak, with the kings who named them. The kings thought, hey, if we name them and give them power, they're going to do what we want, and they'll be our puppets, and they'll allow us to have more control in the church. And these 2 individuals, St. Thomas Becket in England, and St. Eystein, who would be, is called St. Augustine in English, in Norway. And so they both would use that foundation they received at the University of Paris to lead them, and they were both respected, not just for their spiritual lives and their faith, but for their knowledge, and really being also wise in the ways of the world, and being able to combine those 2. You might remember St. Thomas Becket ended up being martyred by the king in England, Henry II, who had named him bishop, and the 2 of them were friends early on in life, but that friendship obviously was threatened and grew very tense as they conflicted more and more. And at one point, there's a movie called something, what's the movie? But anyway, about St. Thomas Becket, or about Becket and Henry II. And the first one's called Becket, I believe, and the second one is called something else. But anyway, at one point, Henry II says, "Who will rid me of this meddlesome priest?" And these knights that are there overhear him. They think that's a call to go kill him. They go kill Thomas Becket, and of course Henry II is devastated and repents. But and that was in Canterbury. I'm actually hoping to lead a pilgrimage in 2022 to England, and one of the places we're going to go hopefully is Canterbury, and to see the cathedral where St. Thomas Becket was martyred. But the impact of these universities, and that philosophy and religion were at the top of their focal point, were really considered the high point of study and the things that you would want to, focus on. The other arts and sciences were there and very important, but they kind of took a secondary place to philosophy and religion. And now, unfortunately, we see it the other way around. And even at Catholic universities, they want to downplay their religious identity and their Catholic identity because they think that's better for the integrity of academics. And we would say that's completely false, that religion and philosophy, religion specifically, heightens, as we've talked about in the other essays, our search for truth. So part of this essay was a call to get Catholic universities to renew themselves in this beautiful vision of the universities in the Middle Ages, where they really were universal in their approach of truth and the things that they helped form their students in, across the board of subjects and disciplines. Two of the professors that these saints would have had in those early decades of the University of Paris were some great minds like Hugh of St. Victor and Richard of St. Victor, kind of famous philosophers and teachers and professors that were there. And then amidst that, even within the first year, if you remember, St. Louis of France was Louis the Ninth, King of France, and he was King of France in those first 100 years or so of the University of Paris. And he would talk about, and I love this quote, about the place that the university held versus the king's court, which he was the head of. And he really deferred and saw the university as being the more important heart of France versus the royal court. And he would say this, from Paris, wrote the king, flow the most abundant waters of wholesome doctrine, so that they become a rich river, which after refreshing the city itself, irrigates the universal church. So you see this way that they saw the universities feeding and helping strengthen the church and its purpose and its mission, something hopefully we can be renewed in. So thank you for joining me today and talking about the mother of universities. I like to think of my mother's alma maters of Prep and Notre Dame. So grateful for the ways that they helped form me, and so we celebrate universities, but pray for their renewal and their recommitment to the fullness of truth and seeing the height of that truth, not just being philosophy, but even theology. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and God bless.